messengers. The wind never stops in North Dakota. It drags across the plains like something with a score to settle. When the Solomons left Chicago behind and moved to a weather-beaten sunflower farm, they carried with them more than they admitted. The house waited with empty windows and paint that peeled like it had grown tired of holding on. Jess Solomon noticed it first. The quiet lasted too long. Her little brother Ben, who hadn't spoken since the accident back home, began acting strange. He stared off at nothing, reaching for things that weren't there. At night, he wouldn't sleep unless she stayed close. Everyone else seemed eager to pretend things were fine. Her mom clung to every small sign that they were settling in. Her dad threw himself into turning the field into something worth harvesting. But Jess kept noticing things that didn't sit right. Sometimes she'd enter a room and feel watched. Doors that had been open were closed. Old furniture seemed to shift slightly between glances. She'd walk through the hallway and feel a tightness in her chest, like the air had grown heavy around her. Then came the birds. They flew strangely near the house, bumping into windows and collapsing in the yard. Feathers dotted the porch every morning, and Ben began to draw things, dark figures and jagged lines that made Jess's stomach knot. She found photos in the attic, tucked into a rusted tin box. A family from years ago smiled stiffly at the camera, their eyes flat. Scratched into the backs of the photos were words she didn't understand. One of them was the same as what Ben had said in his sleep. Locals said little about the farm. One cashier froze when Jess mentioned the address. Another gave a half shrug and said it had been empty a long while. A family used to live there, but no one saw them leave. Just one man found later, rambling nonsense before disappearing into some facility hours away. Ben began showing up in odd places. One day Jess found him in the barn, standing in complete silence beside rusted tools and a long-forgotten baby stroller. Another time she found him watching the cellar door. He didn't move, didn't blink. She started having dreams. Not nightmares, worse. Dreams that felt real. Dreams where she couldn't move while people cried behind walls. Where she wandered through the fields at night, barefoot, drawn by something pulling at her thoughts. A man arrived to help with the harvest. His name was John, and there was something different about him. He kept his voice low and his eyes sharp. One afternoon he stood by the cellar steps and said, "Bad things happened here, the kind that stay in the walls." Jess convinced her father to dig into the history. Newspaper clippings mentioned accidents, but details were missing. Police reports were brief and vague, but a few words returned again and again. Disappearance, injuries, unexplainable. One night, the lights failed. The wind rose. The old house groaned under its own weight. Jess grabbed Ben and tried to find her parents, but the rooms no longer felt like home. Something moved between them. Not footsteps, something quieter, something steady. The basement door stood open. Jess knew they had never opened it. She carried a flashlight and descended. Cold met her at the last step, and then she saw it. Remnants of something dark, old stains, broken furniture, a child's toy crushed under debris. What she found in that room didn't have a clear name. It wasn't a ghost, not in the way people think. It was memory soaked into every board, every nail. It showed her what had taken place in flashes she couldn't turn away from. The sun finally rose. The wind died. Her parents stood in silence, no longer arguing, no longer pretending. Something had been buried, and they had uncovered it without meaning to. Jess didn't explain. She didn't need to. They all understood now. This house wasn't just old. It remembered, and it was never quiet without reason.